The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello there, welcome to the show. This is The West Stand, our new show for this season. It's out on a Monday and a Friday. You will find it in YouTube, you'll find it in your podcast app. Guests from across the world of Leeds United. And boy, is this a show we're really looking forward to doing today. I'm Dan Moylan. Hello. With me is Michael Normanton.
Hello.
First, let's mention that the show is brought to you by NordVPN. So if you were to, I don't know, leave the country, never come back, and want to start a new life, but still keep in touch with things in the UK, let's say, for example.
Not football.
Not football. No,
just EastEnders, Coronation Street.
Yeah. Great programming.
Homes Under the Hammer.
Great programming on ITV on Sunday lunchtimes.
Yeah, not that.
Yeah. You can do it with NordVPN, the fastest VPN in the world. Say something about NordVPN.
10 devices you can put it on.
Steadfast.
That's good.
Good privacy.
You get a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Have we ticked the boxes there?
I think that's probably about right.
Did we mention the 10 devices?
I just did.
Did we mention the speed?
Yeah.
Did we mention virtual locations?
Certainly alluded to it.
Right. nordvpn.com/TSB. And you will find the link in the episode description box as well. On to today's guest then. It's BRYN Law. Hello, BRYN. Commentator for LU2V who got to witness this wonderful spectacle on ITV on Sunday. And I think, are we all of a mind here where we just don't want to do this? But, you know, here we are.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Lovely to have you back. I mean, man, a long weekend. First thing to say, I think, is nice one to everybody who travelled for this. Travelling fans, because...
Respect.
And you did in a professional capacity as well.
Yeah, I'm getting paid for it, so that makes that softens the blow a little bit of leaving at 10:15 on Saturday morning and getting home at 8:30 on Sunday night, which seems almost excessive for a single game of football, doesn't it? But
people at 4 a.m. on the coaches.
Well, I actually, do you know what? One of the good bits about the weekend. Let's discount the core bit, if you like, but one of the good bits about the weekend was I actually bumped into a lot of Leeds United fans, both travelling down and travelling back again, and really enjoyed their company. Really nice people.
In the sunshine.
Misery loves company. That's what they say, isn't it?
Well, it wasn't on the way down. We didn't have that as an excuse, but...
You had sunshine. We've had a sunshiny weekend.
Yeah, I saw a bit of it briefly very early on Sunday morning. Because, it was a proper adventure, right? This one is another that goes down as kind of you're looking at it as something that you've got to get through. We just got to get through this one. So 2 trains plus 3 tubes in between them, and a car drive for me to Selby Station as well. And
chuck the rings in the volcano and then make your way back.
Yeah, that's effectively yes. Yeah, but we had found a great restaurant on Saturday night for Andy Cousins as he stepped up to replace Tony DeRigo. And we found this bizarre little tiny restaurant with nobody else in it, where we were served really good food by a really nice person who was cooking it all herself because she was the only person working there, and then got charged almost nothing for eating any of it. It's the sort of thing you usually encounter if you're backpacking around, I don't know, Thailand or something. And so we had all that bit, and then a nice run down the seafront on Sunday morning at Southsea Beach by the promenade. That was nice. And then on the journey home, met a lot of nice Leeds fans who were kind of philosophical on the way home. So a good chat with all of them, and trains were on time.
What you're describing is a good weekend ruined by Leeds United having to play a game.
Oh, we've got to do this bit now, have we?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying my very, 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 very hardest to just park this one and move on from it. Well, I say I'm trying.
But then we're going to have a struggle to talk for the next 30 or 40 minutes or so if we do that, aren't we?
Yeah, I don't mean like I don't want to talk about it, but I mean from a mental perspective, because you can let these things weigh you down, can't you, is what I was going to say. And I've tried to do a hard reset this morning, had the dog out for a nice long walk in the fresh air. It was good. Went and sat in the steam room a little bit earlier to physically clear your head as well as metaphorically. Listen to some nice music in the car, on the dog walk. Come here, and I'm pleased to be in the company of you two fine gentlemen, two of the most pessimistic people who could have possibly signed these seats today. Because, I mean, from working with you in DeRigo this year, we know that you are the pessimist out of the two, BRYN, and Michael. Well, you're Michael. To anyone who's watched or listened to this show will know what you're like. So give me a reason to feel positive today.
So you've just teed the pair of us up as being abject pessimists, and then we've got to come up with something to lift you.
That's not to lift me, to lift everybody.
We're still top.
Thank you.
Okay.
For now.
Until for a matter of hours, but still. I'm still top.
I'm going to say this, Bryn. We will finish this game week, this midweek, top of the league.
Okay, well, I'll say yes, hopefully. Yes.
What about this game week, including the weekend?
That's not this game week. That's this calendar week.
We'll call it. We'll go to the more traditional weeks. What about this week?
I mean, just before we started recording, you were saying, Bryn, weren't you? Like, this could not have been, from a Leeds United narrative perspective, this could not have been set up any better than going to QPR, heading into the international break, which you get to carry with you for like 2 weeks until you can fix it, to the very place where it all fell apart last year in the most horrible way. Yeah,
a game I still... PTSD might be the phrase, I don't know, but flashbacks to Loftus Road last season. It's not just the QPR thing, which has not been a great place for Leeds anyway, has it, in recent times? We were talking about this on the train journey back from Portsmouth on Sunday, but also it's London, and Leeds have a really rotten record still in that they're London. And on top of all of that, it's a 12:30 kickoff, and as is becoming increasingly apparent, the 12:30 / 12 noons, thanks guys, are not a happy place for Leeds currently either. So put it all together, and there's only one outcome.
A Leeds win.
Away win.
A Leeds win, yeah. But the first one to turn our attention to is Millwall through the week.
So we're not doing Portsmouth at all.
I was going to say,
can I just clarify here?
I was actually getting a bit ahead of me. I was just going to say we will come on to that in a minute, but I suppose we do have to do some form of post-mortem on what happened at Fratton Park, because it wasn't great. But I've got really weird mixed feelings about it, which is it was a very typical this season defeat, as we were discussing on the match ball. Oh, you weren't here, were you? Off watching basketball. Did you have a nice time, by the way?
Yes, it was much more.
Did you see somebody
win
win?
The Leeds game? I did. Yeah, I watched the Leeds game in a bar with. There's one of the Leeds fan in there, Square Ball listener. Came over and said hello. Quite low key though, and then went to watch some handballing. Right. And that was much better. I enjoyed that an awful lot more, to be honest. Felt like lower jeopardy. Sheffield won. Weird supporting the Sheffield team, but there you go.
Sorry, am I in the right place? This is the Square Ball podcast,
yeah,
right?
My son's into basketball, so I ended up watching a basketball final in Nottingham this weekend.
Michael has done the best thing a parent possibly can, which is to not inflict Leeds United forcefully upon their children.
Okay.
So he's decided, he's seen the unhappiness football brings me, and he's gone... Yeah, something else.
Not for me, that.
Which is absolutely the right thing to do.
Fair play to the lad.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, it was a very typical defeat. We had enough moments in that game to have won it, be it if we get the penalty and score that early doors, if Pirro takes one of his chances, I think it's a vastly different game. And with a few hours having passed, I'm now able to, I suppose, look at it in a slightly more cool-headed fashion and say that sometimes games just get away from you. I'd rather they hadn't done it this week.
It never really got away from them, but they never really got into it either.
Yeah. Which is very typical, isn't it? The defeats this season.
It was somewhere in between the two places. I mean, they were never overrun by Portsmouth. Portsmouth only had, I think, 3 shots on goal at the end of the game. So if you analyse and assess and go through the stats, they don't look that bad. And Daniel Farke was talking about XG in the post-match interview, which I felt I knew a little bit more about what he was trying to get out after our conversation in one of these sessions fairly recently. But the point was there that there were some absolute clear-cut chances created. It was the inability on this occasion to take them that was the key difference in terms of the outcome. There was one really bad defensive mistake which led to the Portsmouth goal. Take that one really bad defensive mistake out of the game and you've probably got a 0-0 draw, which was the same result, I think, that Sheffield United and Burnley both had at Fratton Park. So they look like a side that at home, and you can understand why, because as much as Ellen Road needs a little bit doing to it, well, Fratton Park needs an awful lot doing to it because it's wooden floors and all the rest of it's still there. But the atmosphere inside the stadium was the kind of thing that Ellen Road kind of prides itself on in terms of that sound level all the way around the ground. And it was from the first minute onwards, and they got behind their team brilliantly, the home fans.
You've been in the stadium. Do you feel that genuinely helped their team?
Yeah,
be up for that.
Absolutely, unquestionably. But it was one of those classic. It's Leeds United, everybody's favourite kind of, that rolls into town. I was talking to the guys that we were jammed into the media seats because some of the Leeds United analysts, there was no room for them on the gantry because you had two TV companies covering the game at the same time. So they were having to sit down where the media guy, where we were sitting, they were sitting in the same row as us. So we were all jammed in. They said it was the fullest the press box, as the old-fashioned term for them, but the fullest the press box had been all season. It was a proper old kind of, the Leeds United jamboree sort of thing. And they were lapping it up because they put themselves in a position in the league where it looks pretty good. Well, certainly even before the game started, looks pretty good for them being in it again next season. In fact, even before it, you would have probably said that was going to be the case. After it, for certain, because their home form this year has been better than anybody else's this year. So they are well set up. They were well organised defensively. They were absolutely at it. I thought Marlon Pack was outstanding at the back for them, and I've seen loads of him playing down the years at Championship level. But he was a great leader in there and doing what he did. And the lad up front ran quite hard. The guy who eventually scored the goal is the kind of person you've never really heard of before, Colby Bishop. You don't know anything about, but all the elements were in there, and I thought they played well. They didn't play brilliantly well, but they played well. Leeds weren't quite at it, but strip all that away, and you've got kind of a virtual open goal miss in the first half. Tremendous save by the keeper for the one before it, a shot through a crowd that he can't have seen. But then the follow-up save was made as well, which shouldn't have happened. You've got a clear penalty shout, which was a rotten decision from the referee. And then you've got the big miss in the second half from Joel Peru again. And then you've got the header off the crossbar, which was a good effort. But then Dan James with the follow-up header probably should have scored that. And so it goes on. So, you all the opportunities were there to right the wrong. And it needed Portsmouth to be given that one moment and then to have something to play for the next 25, 30 minutes thereafter. And that was the story of it for me.
Because a Leeds goal under any of those circumstances completely changes how that feels.
Well, the stats tell us that, don't they? When Leeds get the first goal, they almost always win, and if they don't win, they draw. So Leeds need to get the first goal is a sense you often have. I mean, the case has been the opposite in those big games recently, Sheffield and Sunderland. But in this instance, it should have been, that should have happened. That quite clearly should have happened. There were the moments were there in the first half and the moments were there in the second half for that time for them to take the lead. And then thereafter, I've used that word twice now and I never say thereafter. I don't know what's going on.
From that point onwards?
From that point onwards, yeah. Edit the second thereafter out.
No.
Yeah, okay. There were still chances created, but you got the sense from 1-0. I had a very much the kind of bit of a sinking feeling about the whole thing because they were right at it. Portsmouth were right. They were throwing themselves in front of everything. There was all the chat about physicality in the build-up to the game, so you can't say that Leeds were surprised by anything that happened in terms of the approach to the opponents because they talked about it. Daniel Farke had talked about Portsmouth's physicality, and we did see it because Leeds players were getting brushed off the ball fairly regularly. And so Tanaka was finding it really difficult in the midfield in a way that we haven't really seen with him previously to exert that level of control that he can exert in there. So a lot of the things weren't happening that have been happening in recent times, and that disruptive element was enough to see Portsmouth home.
Regarding Farke's comments in the aftermatch, he did say Leeds could have on a good day have scored 5 or 6 in that game. Normally they'd score 2 or 3. Do you agree with that? And how was he? What's his general mood like? He's never too high. He's never too low. What was he like yesterday?
Well, yes, he was that
right within the parameters.
Yeah. It was that thing again, And I do agree with the chances there. I mean, it's been a kind of a bit of a theme. It's not the first interview he's probably said that we should have scored a lot more goals than that this season. It definitely isn't. But I do get what he was on about that, and he did say that I can't be too hard on Peru and Firpo because they've scored good goals for me recently, so I can't really blame them. But then obviously there's an implied criticism on the basis that he said I can't really blame them. So I suppose he's reliant upon those guys to do the thing that they are meant to do. And in this instance, when they didn't do it, then a defensive mistake, because it was a defensive mistake that led to the goal. And take that out, and Portsmouth probably don't score.
Mm-hmm.
There was no evidence to say they were going to score apart from that, but they were given the opportunity to do that. So that was I think that's in the post-match, certainly the post-match that I did with him as well. That there was mention of that. He didn't labour the point, but it was mentioned. And Daniel doesn't say anything without it having a relevance in terms of the things he's saying.
Everything is there for a reason.
Yes,
I think what did feel a bit different about the second half was that we're used to teams setting up defensively and going for a bit of a smash and grab, and actually they were front foot for an awful lot of that second half. And
except for the first 10 or 15 minutes, and when the chance was missed, when Peru missed the sitter, the open goal, I had that real sense from that point on that there was a bit of a look around between them there and thought, hold on a second, if they're not going to put one away like that, then we can go front foot here, because we might as well have a go at this one. They I don't know whether it's a coincidence or not, but from that point onwards, they were going for it from that point onwards.
And they were riding the crest of the wave that the crowd provides, I suppose. Just going back to that theme, it's amazing how that can inspire a team and push it on. And I hope actually, just with one eye on Wednesday, that's what happens at Ellen Road, because there's no doubt that we're all carrying nerves, I think, off the back of dropped points in 2 games now and the gap having evaporated. And we could quite conceivably start Wednesday in 3rd place in that division. None of which feels good. But do you know what? I can't wait for Wednesday. Genuinely. Sat here today, it's now 2:45 on Monday afternoon. I can't wait for that game because I want to see them put it right, and I think they will. It's
a 10-game season, isn't it, now? Kind of race for the line. Still think it's 2 from 3. So although Sunderland are kind of still, they're slightly on the periphery, but I think it's 2 from 3. And, okay, chaps, over to you. Off you go. Crack on.
I am very pleased we've got a game quickly. It would have been, I was saying in the office, wasn't I, before, if this was the game that took us into international break, it would have felt like a very, very, very long time, because all you've got to do is just think about this.
Just stew on it,
Just looking at a league table for a couple of weeks going, oh no.
It's happened again.
Which could very much still be the case, let's be clear, because if we were to take, less than 6 points from these 2 games, it's likely there will still be an awful lot of that. But it gives us the opportunity to put it right, doesn't it?
Mm.
And we've seen under Farke, for the most part, we've bounced back. Certainly this season, we've bounced back from defeats and bad results, haven't we? So it's arguably 2 bad results in a row now. But I mean, in isolation, a draw against West Brom is fine, isn't it? It's following it up with this, and maybe a slight creeping feeling that we've not been great for a while now, because the games before it were very tight. We certainly weren't dominant in them, were we? It was in the balance till the very final stages. So it feels like a few weeks really since we were beating teams 7 and 4-0.
But I mean, would we have gone into those games against Sunderland and Sheffield United as 2 of the better teams in the division and expected to completely roll them over? I wouldn't do.
No, not at all.
I felt they were always going to be tight, and I think there's possibly trying to have it both ways as well, because we can look at yesterday's game and say we had enough opportunities within that game to win it, having not played particularly well, but still found a way to win. And the same applies to those games as well, except we did find a way to win.
The thing is, you retrofit your opinions of other games, don't you, based on, you either, like, had we won yesterday? Was it yesterday?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
God, not slept since.
It feels like a lifetime ago. Yeah.
Had we won yesterday, which we could have done, as we said, with the chances we had, we come in here and we say, oh, it's a sign of champions grinding out results in games where you've not necessarily played particularly well. Having lost it, you go, shit, wheels are off.
Yeah.
This is the start of it all going badly wrong.
Yeah. And yet a 0-0 draw would have been also probably regarded as being a pretty decent result in the circumstances.
Yeah.
Which is what the outcome, arguably should have been.
Yeah. Or you get that late equaliser and it feels like a bonus, doesn't it? Rather than if you go in and said, well, you'll draw this 1-1 all, a lot of people would have said, no chance, we need to win that.
Well, their keeper, by the way, played exceptionally well yesterday. And
so many of them seem to do it, though. Well, never get the bloody season.
I was talking to a Portsmouth fan on the way back to London afterwards, and he said, yeah, about time, or some comment he made about him like that. So he got the Man of the Match award over the PA, and there was a big roar about that. But I don't think they were entirely enamoured of the way he's been playing prior to that. So, yes, player lifts game, and Leeds just couldn't get past him.
If the universe is writing itself in that regard, I expect 10 man of the match performances from Meslier to see out this season, because I think he was at least partially to blame for that goal.
I think they weren't they all though.
Yeah, it was poor from start to finish.
It was.
The goal.
I look at his position on it though. It's the way he comes and then stops, and then it's a bit like he did for the West Brom goal. It's one of the, on the face of it, you can go, okay, maybe he's a bit unlucky there, but puts himself nowhere, I suppose, is the thing. Either come out and close it or stay back.
But there was a centre half in close proximity as well. So between the pair of them, there was and Andy Cousins made the point in commentary, between the pair of them, there was somebody needed to take control of the situation. It ended up with neither taking control of the situation. They effectively left it to each other. So that moment of hesitation between you, we had a good line on that one from sitting where we were sitting. And there was almost a kind of meeting of the eyes between goalkeeper and centre half at the point where they're going, well, are you?
And it was just in that sweet spot, wasn't it?
There it was, and he was in. And as soon as that happened, the chance to do anything had basically gone. So it was a I suppose they're the tiny little, they're the little things that can make all the difference. Having said all of that, I think the run-in is favourable in terms of, I've said in here previously that somebody is going to emerge from the pack here, who's going to be, again, to use that phrase, a disruptor in terms of the way that this thing, I think, plays out over the next few weeks. So Frank Lampard's Coventry City, as we now have to call them, they're on this great run. Only defeat in the midst of it was the one against Leeds, and they've still to play Burnley and Sheffield United. So yeah,
their fixtures, their next three after this midweek round is out of the way, Bryn. It's Sunderland away at Coventry, and then it's Sheffield United at home to Coventry, and then it's Burnley away to Coventry. So they're going to have a big say in this top four at least.
And Sheffield United and Burnley have to play each other as well.
That's
still
the 44th game, so that's Easter Monday, so 3 from the end.
So there are still factors in the race here that may have a bearing, beyond what Leeds United do. But if Leeds United win the 10 games, the job is done.
Yeah.
I've always had a lot of time for Fratton Lampard.
Oh, yeah.
No, but seriously, if we could win those games, it'd help us out a lot.
It would be. Well, the first matter at hand, the first order of business is game week 37, which is this midweek. We've got Millwall at home, they're 12th. You've got Bristol City travelling to Sheffield United. They're in 7th position and in a good run of form. And then West Brom for Burnley at Turf Moor. And if you're going to keep including Sunderland in that, they're playing Preston.
Do you know what? I think the best strategy here is, having said all that stuff I just said, is to completely ignore what the others are doing. I made the error of doing this. I was travelling down to London on Saturday afternoon, so was monitoring scores on that basis. And the moment, so you look at Burnley Luton, for instance, and you think, well, there's absolutely no point even monitoring that because I'll guess the outcome. And they get 19 minutes in, and then you see Luton red card. And at that point, even though it's still 0-0, you absolutely know what is going to happen from there on in. Yeah. And then shortly afterwards, an own goal to put Burnley 1 up, and then they end up winning 4-0. And so there's a predictability about a lot of this stuff in the Championship, I think, this season. And it's the one that suddenly goes awry with that. But on that basis, I don't think it helps anyone to just actually to look at the other stuff.
But it's impossible to not do it. I have all that said, I'm going to try being the operative word here, disengage from the Tuesday night fixtures, and I won't succeed. I know that right now, but I'm going to try my best to perhaps push it to the side and ignore it. Maybe even turn my phone off for a bit. Who knows?
So the long dog walk.
Yeah.
Sauna.
Could work. And then we can only do our job, can't we? I think that's the lesson from this. And I know because I've been sat doing spreadsheets and working out, rolling 10-game form and rolling 10-game average opponent positions and taking a bit of stick for it. And I've realised, apart from trying to make myself feel more comfortable, I think what I was trying to lay out when I looked at these things is that the only people who will stop us doing this is Leeds United.
Well, I heard exactly that comment yesterday somewhere between here and Portsmouth.
Yeah, and
I was chatting with the Leeds fan.
Do you think maybe we'd forgotten that a little bit because we'd had the little run of wins against Sunderland and Sheffield United, and suddenly we start to see the finish line, and then this reminds you.
Yeah, there's absolutely no question that's happened because lots of people have been saying, when we're in the Premier League next season, and and you go, catch, hold on, back up. If not when, it's still if not when, because anything could yet happen. And even at 5 points clear, and then you're looking at sort of with just a second place, because everyone keeps telling me it's Leeds United and it's not going to be that straightforward. And then sure enough, here we are 2 games later and it's all square, basically all level again.
And we like to think, don't we, that there's something particularly wrong with us. And this is why I'm trying my best to just to be as stoic as possible about this and just say, look, this is beyond my control. Why chew yourself up about it? Because it's not just us. Because if you look at the run-ins like last year, that got a lot closer than perhaps Leicester and Ipswich you might like to admit. And it was only our very late season form that put paid to our own challenge. There was a time when we could have been right up there, but we just, we ran out of steam. But I noticed from analysing last season that Leicester's block around this point in the season was exactly the same points yield. It was like 4 points from 6 as we got in the final closing weeks of the season. So it happened to them as well, and they won the league.
Yeah.
So it's going to ebb and flow. It just happens to be that we're at a little bit of an ebb right now.
Well, if you want glass half full, which is not usually my standard position on this one, Leeds are in a wildly better position this season than last season.
Yep.
With 10 games to go, it's absolutely in Leeds' hands.
But that's the worrying thing.
It's in Leeds' hands to make sure the job gets done.
Yep.
Whereas last season, there was a chase on for almost the entire season. There were 2 teams who were clearly kept at times clearly, at other times less clearly, but were constantly picking up points last season. And Leeds just couldn't bridge the gap and ran out of energy, ran out of steam, ran out of whatever. But that is not the scenario we're in here. Leeds are, at the moment, top of the table and absolutely right in the hunt. And as I've said, probably 2 from 3. So you weren't saying that, I don't think, it's still at this stage last season. Even if you were saying it still felt like a long shot.
And just looking at this, this midweek, say Sheffield United are at home to Bristol City, they're 7th. Burnley are at home to West Brom, who are 6th. It is not beyond the realms of possibility that one of them, or hopefully both, drop some points here. And if we win on Wednesday, suddenly the world looks fine again. You think, actually, that's the Leeds we recognise. They've had not necessarily a wobble because, just a little dropping of points, a little ebb, as we were saying. And we can then go into the QPR game with a bit of, I suppose, renewed hope that even if we do drop points there, it's not the end of the world. I think the fear is that we finish this little run of games and go into the international break third and let's not even contemplate it. And that's why I'm just trying to stay focused on what's in front of us, because it is a 10-game run. It's not just 1 week, it's not just 2, it's a 10-game run.
30 points to play for.
Yep.
How many required from that 30?
7 wins will do it. And even then, this is the point, Sheffield United and Burnley have both got 30 points to play for. They can't both get them.
Yep, that's it.
So one of them is going to be limited to 27, or they're both limited to 28, and that's a huge advantage if we're still in touch. Three games
goal difference is another point.
Yeah, 3 games from the end with somebody going to lose 3 points is going to be massive, as long as we haven't completely sunk by then, which of course we won't. So there's plenty of reason.
It was all going so well.
Plenty of reason to look.
Can I just say, by the way, you're absolutely keeping an eye on those scores tomorrow. You're watching at least one of those games whilst refreshing your phone on the other one.
I'll be multi-screening it.
I'm actually pretty good at completely ignoring that stuff, generally speaking, because my take on all of this is, well, I just anticipate that Sheffield United and Burnley will win. So there's absolutely no point. And if I do have this thing that if I look at and it says 0-1 and it's like on 87 minutes, and even as I'm looking at it, the screen will refresh to say 1-1. There's too many examples of that happening, so I just don't do it. I don't do that anymore. Plus, Wrexham are playing Reading on Tuesday evening, so my focus will be...
You've got a distraction.
It will be very much on what is a very big game for Wrexham.
Yeah. And if we all do win this midweek, we're still right in there, That would still be, our last 10 games would be...
Is that a bit like Kevin Keegan when you did that?
23 points from the last 10 if we win. If they both win, it'll be 24 points. So they've only gained 1 point on us in 10 games if we all win this midweek. And that's basically the case. We've outperformed Burnley's last 10 games, even this weekend having lost. It's all right there. We don't need to panic and shit the bed just yet. Do we?
But you have done.
No, I haven't.
You have done. I can smell it. I can smell it on you.
The more your slightly high-pitched voice says, there's no need to panic.
I got a little bit upset yesterday, but I'm over it today.
I was massively. I'm still upset today. I've got to be perfectly honest. Although weirdly, I slept well last night. The night before the game, I slept terribly. I think it's knowing we're in the process of screwing this up is actually worse than knowing we can almost touch promotion. I think it feels so much more familiar to me that I'm like, oh, fine, it's fine now.
It's a mere.
Oh, that's better.
I'll sleep like a baby.
It's a mere speed bump. Well, I mean, to the Millwall game, what I would say is they've got a couple of injuries. So two of the forward line who played against us.
Yeah, Aziz is out.
Aziz, who scored both goals in the cup tie. DJ Femi, do another meme about that. Hamstring trouble. He came off at half-time when they lost at home to Bristol City a couple of games ago, and it's Kamel Negli, I think it's pronounced. He's out for 6 weeks as well. So he's the Algerian winger that they signed in January, who was on the other side to Aziz. Yep. So it'll be a vastly different game. I looked at the starting 11s from that game, and it looks like it was Darlow, Schmidt, Ampadu, Strauch and Byram, Gilavogi, Rothwell, Chambers, Nonto, Ramazani and Joseph. So possibly, Pascal is the only one who's definitely going to start this game. Question maybe over Rothwell being in midfield, Nonto and Ramazani. Does one of them maybe get rotated in?
Well, I think Rothwell definitely starts in midfield.
Yeah.
Because I guess the question at Portsmouth would be around the decision to put Gruev back into that on the basis that there's a solidity there, perhaps, away from home. I'm just wondering at this stage now where you're at the bit where you go, listen, I think we've got better attacking players than most of the teams. So do we... And with this, we get the first goal. Stats tell you we do okay. Are you now at the stage where you say a slightly different approach away from home? Let's just go for it. Let's just see if we win the game.
Handbrake off.
Yeah. Well, that's where Leeds' strength lies, really, isn't it? In that. Is
Farke that sort of manager though to do that?
Well, I don't know because we're still kind of learning a bit about him, even though nearly 2 years in or whatever. I don't know. And maybe the next few weeks will give us an indication of that. But I mean, for sure, at home against Millwall, a team who there's a decent enough level of rivalry between the two going back down the years, plus the 2 defeats this season as well. I mean,
we owe them 1 or 2, don't we? Yeah.
If there isn't enough to get the lads going on that basis alone, then there is something going wrong here. So I'm sure there will be that big noise around that one, the big intensity around that one.
I think the crowd will lift the players, even though we'll be carrying nerves into it. Ellen Road responds on nights like these.
Well, it needs to be well set up for the weekend as well, then, because there's enough, as we've already outlined, there's enough kind of potential negativity swimming around that one based on past history and all the rest of it. That a good vibe going into QPR sets everybody up, sets everything up nicely, hopefully.
Yeah, and just looking at Millwall starting 11 at Watford at the weekend, which they won. Good win for them. 3 of the same back 4 that played in our FA Cup game. The same 3 central midfielders as well in Mitchell, Denore and Kundal. It's the 2 wide players who were out. So it's probably going to likely be about 6 out of the same 11 that we saw in the FA Cup game, something like that.
It's very hard to draw any conclusions from it because that was a very, very heavy changes from our side. Yeah. And then the league game earlier in the season, they had a different manager. And it's at Millwall, which is obviously a completely different thing down there. Our record against Millwall at Ellen Road is actually pretty good in recent years. I know it's got a weird sort of holdovers as Millwall that you think is bad things always happen, which...
Not at all.
But at Ellen Road, generally speaking, we actually have turned them over in recent years.
Well, listen, guys, if the team has pretensions of becoming a Premier League side, Millwall at home at this stage of the season is most definitely one that has to go down on the list as a game that Leeds United have to win. So, you can't really get beyond that. It should be beyond debate that Leeds should win this game.
Yeah, as is the case with many of the games in that run-in. But 1 game at a time, I suppose, BRYN.
Hey, as they say in the game, innit?
Yep, 10-game season, 1 game at a time. Let's start with 3 points on Wednesday so we can get back to a state slightly just under outright existential terror and dread 24/7. That sound all right to you?
100%. Just to go back to the team that will play against Millwall, do you think there's any possibility he ever drops Aronson? I know we don't have anyone else who you would say is a natural in that position, but it feels like it's quite a long time now since you actually came out of a game thinking he'd contributed much. But it feels like Aronson and Meslier are pretty much undroppable.
It's a good question, and it's one I genuinely don't know the answer to, but I don't think so. Would be my instinctive response, because his numbers are high. So there's a lot of energy created in there. You made the point there's not a ready-made replacement potentially in that area. So what you would end up doing perhaps is putting somebody into that position who isn't really a player in that position, and then that means that they aren't playing in another position that they would more. And I think we're not. I don't think we're at the stage for that level of tinkering now.
It's the argument for not doing something in January, isn't it? Stability and harmony.
But that,
over.
That boat sailed, hasn't it? So
yeah, but I mean, it's the same
coulda, shoulda,
mindset,
didn't,
really,
or whatever. But yeah, so I think what you see is what you've got. You've got, hopefully, and I think this has been overlooked, Ampadu's absence again.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned it on the match ball.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I think that's important, because he is versatile, but he adds something significant in different areas of the pitch. Leadership. And that leadership element as well. And so, again, that was an injury at a bad time for Leeds. So hopefully the good news of him back in a couple of weeks means that, unlike the last international break last year when loads didn't come back and play again, which was hugely important, and those who did come back came back a bit damaged maybe because of what had happened to them on international duty.
Silly bloody Welsh lot.
Sorry. Yes, Dan James and all the rest of it, but hopefully they all come back in better fettle this time, so that there wasn't the kind of negative impact at the key stage of the season last time around. And then you've got, hopefully, the on the other side of that, you've got the good news that Ethan Ampadu is fit and available and coming back in, and so we've got a sort of clean bill of health across the squad. But no, I don't think you'll see major changes of that nature now.
And again, that game week, we host Swansea, who are currently sat in 15th, and you've got Sheffield United playing Coventry that week, and Burnley hosting Bristol City as well.
That's tremendously exciting, isn't it?
I'm having a great time. Don't know about you.
I'm doing this twice, right? Because I've got Wrexham on joint second in the division below with Wycombe to play, with Stockport to play, with Reading to play, and so I'm collapsing under the pressure of this whole goddamn thing here.
This is your cross to bear, Bryn, I'm afraid. This is the life you've chosen for yourself.
I chose it, yeah. I've only myself to blame.
Wasn't it more comfortable when Wrexham were just languishing in non-league?
It was more comfortable when everybody was not very good at anything, right? Yeah. Okay.
Leeds 15th in the Championship, Wrexham somewhere in non-league, going nowhere.
Well, let's embrace it. Let's
happier times.
Embrace it.
I'll definitely dispute the going nowhere in non-league. No, we are... That's actually the key contrast here is Leeds is all angst and nerves and kind of, oh my God, is it happening again? Whereas the contrast at Wrexham is, oh, what a ride. What a ride. Guess what? We might even get promoted again.
Yeah,
Can you believe it?
It's more of a can it happen again, isn't it?
So I was at Huddersfield last week in the away end to watch Wrexham win at Huddersfield. And there's just kind of, amongst the battle-hardened troops anyway, those who've been around a long time and seen all that non-league mediocrity, there is a sense of you just absorb it, you suck it in, you smile. There's a lot of people just sitting around kind of smiling in a kind of dopey way, because this is also 2 years ago we were in non-league, and now look what we're doing, look where we are. And
the chance to be in Kirklees. Wow.
Well, when you look at a stadium like that, compared with Wealdstone or whatever, then you think, sorry, Wealdstone, that was just an example.
They've got a hard bloke who'll fight you.
Wealdstone, the little chap, yeah. Got a pal of mine as a manager, but we digress. So when you look at that, so that journey for the Wrexham fan base at the moment is like beyond anybody's wildest dreams. It isn't for me any reason. Actually, I was joking about there's no reason for angst, because if we don't get promoted, you go, well, I tell you what, though, what a lot of great what a lot of fun that was. We lost in the playoff final again, by the way, because Wrexham
not supposed to be
terrible
fun.
Record, but Leeds, it's way more serious. It feels way more serious than that.
I will say this though. I was saying before that we need to embrace this. I mean, we bemoaned the lack of jeopardy earlier in the season. Now all the jeopardy's here. We've got all the jeopardy, and it feels like shit. I'm not gonna lie.
It's absolutely draining.
I reject your jeopardy. So the only way to think about this, the only way to frame it, is to go, do you know what? Let's embrace the madness and see where we end up.
You want jeopardy, but
only if you win.
Yeah, ultimately you need to win at the end of it, don't you? Like the Sheffield United Sunderland games, loads of jeopardy in those. Yeah. But thankfully it's over quite quickly, and ultimately you win. This, we're just looking at weeks and weeks ahead of us of just more of this.
If we do it though, by the end of the season,
no one can have that level of jeopardy for so long. It's too much.
If we do it though, by the end of the season, we'll look back and we'll go, remember when we were shitting our pants after those 2 games? like Cardiff after the COVID break.
Without taking the energy out of this conversation, I've also had 3 or 4 conversations with Leeds fans on trips recently, or bumped into, who've all gone, well, I don't really want to get promoted, to be honest with you, because I don't like the Premier League.
I do. No, I don't. I'm not prepared to stay here anymore. Just let me go on that on record. I've had enough of it.
The Championship.
Yeah, enough.
Yeah.
Let's get up there and give it a go.
There we go. That's it. Come on.
I mean, we look back to last year, and like Leicester fans were having a meltdown.
Yeah.
At various points, weren't they? Because we'd beaten them, and I think they still had a decent bit of clearance at that point. But then they continued to wobble, and completely were throwing toys out the pram, weren't they? They were suggesting getting rid of Maresca at various points. There was like complete baby with bathwater. This needs to change immediately. And ultimately, it was fine from. And hopefully, that's the point we are now at, and then we can go up and then get 20 points next season.
They took 10 points from 10 games around this stage last season. Did Leicester 10? At the same time, we took 21 in that same spell.
The problem was they were about 40 points clear at the time.
Well, they did all the work, in the start of the season. The first 13 or 14 games where they effectively won it. Them and Ipswich gave themselves the luxury of the gap being closed, and let's just hope that's what's just happened now. The gap's being closed just to make it more of a competition, and that's what we're here for, isn't it? To embrace it.
We could have reached this point in the season, even if we look back a month, the exact same league position, same points, but if the points had been accumulated in a different way, we'd feel fine about this. If we'd have got draws against Sunderland and Sheffield United, and you're chalking 4 off there. People are fine with it.
I know.
It's weird, isn't it? It's a madness
narrative.
that it is. That it is.
It's a madness. Well, let's hope that the mad pendulum swings back the right way this midweek, and we just do Millwall and say finish this midweek on top of the table, and then we'll worry about QPR after that, because we'll speak to Adam Pope later in the week, and that's when we will.
Tell me you don't want me in next Monday. Well, I'm not available, so don't even ask. Okay.
No, right. We will wrap it up there. I think we all need to go and exhale and just start looking forward to Wednesday night. Aren't you looking forward to it?
Very excited.
I got this fancy watch at Christmas, and it tells you like my stress levels.
Doomsday clock.
Mine are generally pretty low. It was my worst day on record was Sunday.
Was it?
For stress. Yep. And I've had it since Christmas, and it was so that's the kind of levels we're now at.
You really need to get a proper job, don't you?
I think the thing is, I would have been unproductive and thinking about this in a proper job.
I'll tell you what, if we do blow this season, I think
what are you doing here? You keep ramping it up and then pulling it back down again.
It'll be time to go get a proper job.
Fold the pod, fold the club.
Yeah, I'm not doing any of this again. Fuck it. No way.
Of course we are.
Cheers, Bryn.
You're welcome.
The Square Ball Podcast.